Hey friends, welcome to Gardening with Creekside, and this deliciously brisky morning here in North Carolina, we are experiencing a wonderful cold snap that I am sure a lot of you are as well. I've seen folks talk about how it's going to get nice and cold. We are expecting our first freeze. Tonight or tomorrow, we're going to have temperatures like the low even is 29. So it is lots of fun. I love this. It is fantastic. I know not all, but a good number of us who live in warmer temperatures do enjoy when the cool temperatures arrive so that we get a little respite. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you just a little bit of some information on what you can do to prepare your garden for maybe cool temperatures, whether it's a frost or a freeze, things that you can be doing in your garden right now that will help ensure that you have not only a fantastic fall, winter, but get you off on the right foot for come springtime. Also, give you an update on the Berm project. We have got the fence almost all the way in on the berm. We started it yesterday afternoon, so I want to give you an update on that as well. I am standing here in the backyard because I was doing a little bit of perennial transplanting. That is one thing that you can absolutely be doing in the fall. Now, everything that I'm going to tell you is going to be dependent on where you live. I am North Carolina, a Zone 7B. I still have tons of time to add shrubs and perennials and move things when I know kind of what my conditions are going to be. If you are in, let's say, Maine or, Michigan or North Dakota, somewhere like really cold, and you've already had some quite cold temperatures, and or you know that you are about to be having some really solid cold temperatures, you may not want to be doing this now. You're going to take my information and then you're going to apply it to your garden and your situation. Because what I'm doing in North Carolina, you certainly can do in your garden, but maybe at a different calendar time. So just take this information, tweak it, make it work for your garden. So let me tell you what I was doing. You can see I've got Miss B back here with me, and I've got the Polaris. You will see I've got a little bit of debris. I've got my biotone and my power planter auger, because what I did was I transplanted some Monarda from one of the trial beds and put it into this backyard bed. Now you may say, Jenny, that's not hardly anything right there. Here's the Monarda right there. It had lots of good top growth, and look, I cut it all the way back. Maybe there's 6 inches of foliage showing. That way, when you're transplanting, moving perennials that have a lot of top growth on them, remember the key to perennials is you want a strong, healthy root system, because this foliage is going to die back, right? So it's going to be gone. We've passed the show time on that. We want to have as least amount of stress on the plant so that the roots can get really well and happy and established. Come spring and summer, it will bounce back and be really happy. Let me show you the debris that I have here in the back of the Polaris. So you can see right here, I took off that much foliage off of the plant, and you can see that it was already getting a little limpy and wimpy. So you want to cut those back. Also, if you are looking to move and divide your hostas, great time to do it. Most of your perennials and shrubs, if you're looking to move them, this is a really good time of year to do that. The only exception that I would say that you might want to be a little cautious about is if it is a really hot weather loving plant. So I've got some echinacea that I need to put in the ground. I've got some acastaceae that I need to put in the ground, but I go back and forth because it would be better in the ground than it would be in a pot, but then does it going to have enough time for the roots to get established when it's in the ground? I haven't decided what I'm going to do yet, but if I do put them in the ground, I'm going to trim off their foliage way back. So that is one thing that we are going to be doing here in the next couple of days. Let me just give you a little spinneroo right here to show you how the garden is looking But speaking of echinacea, I mean, my gosh, y'all, I have been so stinking impressed with the echinacea that I planted in the garden, gosh, in July. So this is the Sombrero Adobe Orange, and just look how happy and thick and big these plants are. I love it. You can see they're still putting on new growth. I am going to leave them. I will not deadhead these because I want my birds to be able to come and eat from them. The Cheyenne Sky Grass, perennial grass right here, is just looking lovely as well. Gorgeous fall colors. We've talked many times before that I do have mangaves, and these mangaves are not planted in the ground. It is a pot in a pot situation. So what am I talking about? Well, let me show you. So my mom and I did this together. So we buried a pot in the ground. Then the mangave is in this pot. So I have a pot sitting inside this pot. I need to take the mangaves out before that 29-degree night comes, and I'm going to simply put them in the greenhouse to overwinter. So all of my mangaves that I have, I am going to protect them, put them in. It's an unheated greenhouse. As long as I keep those really cold temperatures off of them, they will be just fine. So all the mangaves have to come out, and my little ones I will simply put in the house as a houseplant for the winter. Now, flipping around over here, you will see that we have got the gorgeous, those 3 vertigo grasses. There's 1, 2, and then 3 down there. Those are annuals. They will not survive our winter. And so when we have that 29-degree night, they will be gone. It will be a booger-boo to get them out because of their root system is so extensive. But just to give you a little update over here, look how nice and neat and tidy the beds are. Remember, we were over here just the other day and got all the annuals pulled out, looking so nice and neat, clean and tidy. Makes me very, very happy. The black scallop ajuga, man, it is loving life. I did this about this time last year, and it is growing like crazy. I do need to come on in here. This will be the perfect time to come in and lift some of these off. You can see how it's actually, like this one is growing on top of the stone. So you can see all these roots right here. I can just come in with my clipper and cut it, and then take this whole piece, and let's say I want to put it right here. So then I can fill in all my areas, but really doing nicely. But you can see how it's really kind of covering a lot of rocks. So that way I can spread and divide these. Great time of the year to do it. Now, with your, cold temperatures, your frost freeze, what do you need to do to protect plants? Well, if you have your perennials, your shrubs, there's absolutely nothing you need to do. A frost freeze is an absolutely natural progression. These plants know exactly how to behave with that. You don't need to do anything with them. You don't need to cover anything. You don't need to, protect anything. Perennials, shrubs, trees, good to go. Now, you may notice, like if you have some perennials like the Nicotina right here, for me, it is a perennial. This is year 2 for that. That freeze is going to kill it. So you can come in, and once that freeze comes in and just really fries all of the foliage, then you can trim it all the way back to the ground. I could do it now if I wanted to, but you can see right here is down in there is where all the big stalks are. You were going to cut them all the way back to the ground and get rid of all of kind of your quote yucky foliage. So you want to do that. Your pansies and your violas and your mustards and kales, they can handle. Those are cool weather annuals, and they are just fine. So you don't need to worry about pansies, violas, kales. If it's a cold hardy annual, then you're perfectly fine. Leave it alone. Good to go. If you have your mums, now mums are not going to be, it's not going to kill the plant, but what's going to happen is that you're going to lose your flowers. Your flowers are going to get burned off. So if you've got your mums on your front porch or your deck or out on your porch, wherever it may be, You're going to want to stick those either inside or in your garage just to protect them from those freezing temperatures. Then once it gets above freezing, then you can bring them back out. But if you want to extend and keep your blooms for, you know, a little bit longer, then you're going to need to protect those, because a freeze will definitely fry those sweet little blooms, and we do not want to lose that. Now, as we walk over to the fence, I'm going to give you a couple more tips as we go, because there's some plants that I want to show you and what you can do in preps for the fall, what you can do, and then what you just don't even need to worry about. So for example, my lantana right here, I have the lantana on the corner. I have lots of lantana that is still looking beautiful in all different parts of the garden. I treat these lantanas as annuals. I do have one perennial lantana. I will leave her alone. So these lantanas will be treated as an annual. When the freeze comes, then I will pull them out of the ground. But until then, I'm going to leave them alone. This is the new Luscious Citron from Proven Winners. I love this plant. It is just a beautiful soft yellow. Hopefully the camera is able to pick that up, but it's a gorgeous, gorgeous plant. And so we will be leaving that alone until the freeze comes. Now, you will see that I do have some hydrangeas right here. I have my nice big Limelight Hydrangea. I have trained it to be a little bit of a standard form just to keep the weeds under control underneath here. So with your panicle hydrangeas, panicles, remember, they bloom on new growth. If you want to prune it at this time, you certainly can do that. It is not going to hurt the plant, not even if you're planning on actually pruning it, but if you want to take your blooms, they make great dried arrangements for fall and even Christmas decorations. So it's a great time to cut these and use them for decorations, either in containers in the yard or in your house. Panicle hydrangeas bloom on new growth. It is safe to trim them, cut them, prune them, whatever you want to call it, from now all the way till early spring. You need to prune these because they bloom on new growth. So if you don't want to do it now, I don't. I wait till about mid to late February, because that's when the seasons begin to change from winter into spring. Perfect time to prune your panicle hydrangeas, but they must be pruned. Now, behind those, you will see, or behind that rather, you will see that I have what I just call an old-timey hydrangea. I have not a clue as to what type of hydrangea this is. It is a Macrophila Hydrangea. You can see that it was a beautiful kind of blue purple. I mean, gorgeous. Look how pretty that is. Beautiful blooms on this. Now, these kinds of hydrangeas bloom on old growth. I do not want to prune this hydrangea right now. Is it a little like kind of odd-shaped and maybe a little bit too big? Probably so. I probably need to prune it come next summer. But when your hydrangeas bloom on old growth, do not prune them right now or spring until they have flushed out with all of their blooms. If you are to prune it between now and when it blooms, you're cutting off all of your flowers for next year, and you don't want to do that. Leave your hydrangeas that bloom on old growth, leave them alone. Azaleas. Of course, we're here in the South. We've got lots and lots of azaleas. That is what this great evergreen, there's multiples back here. These are azaleas. They too bloom on old growth. I do not want to prune them right now. They have already formed their bud set for next year. If I prune them, no flowers for Jenny. So anything that is a spring flowering plant is probably going to bloom on old growth. So if you get flowers in the spring on your shrubs, wait until after they bloom, then you can prune them, okay? That's just a general basic rule of thumb. So like camellias, gardenias, azaleas, some types of hydrangeas, forsythia, weigelia, I'm trying to go through my list of plants. All of those bloom on old growth. That is not a comprehensive list. When in doubt, Google it. So, best time to prune azaleas. Best time to prune forsythia. Professor Google will let you know. Now, we're gonna flip the camera around ever so slowly so I do not make you dizzy. Do you see that lovely fence way off in the distance? Brenda and I will walk you over there. If you remember, we are building this berm, and this berm is not going to be like 10 feet in the air. It is a privacy berm that will separate our personal property from the nursery, but we're putting down a split rail fence down the center. So it goes down the center, and then you see where the bobcat is, and then we'll have a gate where the bobcat is, and then we'll have a section of the fence that then goes into the woods. Both sides of the fence will be fully landscaped. We're gonna have different types of trees. We're gonna have evergreen trees. We're gonna have spring flowering trees, tall trees, short trees, fat trees, pine trees, you name it, we're gonna have it in here. And we got started yesterday on the fence, and it is coming along quite nicely. Jerry and Jackson had to go get their hair cut, so that is why we had a momentary lapse in the installation process. But you can see, maybe if I flip around here, that essentially the fence cuts the berm in half. So if we stand here, I think you can see we've got plenty of room on each side to plant. Now, this bed is not perfectly symmetrical. It is not perfectly even on each side. It has different shapes on each side. That way we'll just have some freedom and creative liberties that we can plant it and design it how we want. So here we go on that side. I know a bunch of you are going to be asking me some technical questions. We did go with a split rail fence because we already have a split rail fence at the gate. I don't know if you can probably see it, but it is just through the woods up there. We will stain it a nice dark kind of charcoal black color. That way it won't stand out quite as much. But this is, again, split rail fence. What we're doing is each post is 11 feet on apart from each other. That way the rails will fit in nicely. We are not concreting the post in the ground. We did concrete the post at the tippy top in case we put a gate there eventually, but these are not concreted in. They are buried 2 feet down because we have done this before, and we have actually had the post rot at the top of the concrete, and then it is an absolute booger-boo trying to get the concrete out with the rotten post at the top. This is not, we're not trying to keep horses out. We're not going to have people climbing over this fence. We better not have people climbing over this fence. This is for architectural, structural interest, and so that way it does clearly define that you can look on this side of the bed and you just have to peer through on the other side. So this is not going to be like a heavily pushed on, climbed on, you know, kind of fence. Perfectly fine burying them 2 feet in the ground and then putting the post up. We did go with the lay of the land. So that way, I think it's 18 inches. So we have 18 inches from the bottom of where the first rail sits. So from the bottom of the rail down to the ground is 18 inches. You will notice we have our nice bright yellow string. That way we have all the posts, as you can see right here, are nice and flush with that line. So that way we're in a nice little straight line. We did have to have up here at the top, let's see if we can show that to you. Up here at the top, the first post is a little bit at an angle. That first panel is at an angle because if we put a gate up here at the top, then that first post had to be at a perfect 90-degree angle to the road. So you can see here, right? So we have the panel and then the other panel, which gives it a nice little tweak right there. So we have that. Like I said, this is the first fence post and it is concreted into the ground. But to give you a whole perspective, there we go. Again, we will have the gate where the bobcat is, and then more of the fence will continue into the woods right there, just because the creek is just right there on the other side of those trees. So that will continue that and continue that privacy fence there. And then we are going to continue it across right here. So directly across from this fence post on the other side of the driveway, we will have another fence post. You can see is sitting right there in the woods. So we're going to have it come over somewhere right in here. It will be, and then we'll continue the fence up through the woods about to where the trees are, and then it will take an angle and then connect to the fence that is at the gate. So lots of things going on here. It is going really well as far as putting in the fence. Everything's going nice. Just using the auger and the bobcat and trying to get everything just perfectly right, because those the fence posts are 10 inches, 8 inches wide, maybe. They're 8 inches wide, and the auger is like 10 inches wide. So we don't have a lot of wiggle room there, but we're making it work, and it's all doing good. Jerry's getting an exercise using the post hole diggers to clean out the hole if it's not just right. So that will be nice if we can get this in and into the creek done today. That would be perfect. And then coming up through here in the woods, I think that, of course, that will be a little bit more challenging, just because simply of the tree roots that are in here, because we've got oak trees and poplar trees and all sorts of things. But it is just an absolutely gorgeous fall. We have had a real fall. So excited about that. It didn't go from, blazing hot to solid cold. Just a nice, gorgeous colors. The trees have been fantastic. Almost all of the poplar trees have already lost their leaves. So if you can see the thin one up there, we have got lots of tulip poplars here where we live. They were the first ones to change colors. They are dropping their leaves, will make great leaf litter. We'll come in and chop them up and use them in garden boxes and so forth. But just, it's a great time to be in North Carolina, absolutely, for sure. As we continue to go through this project with the berm and all the other projects, we will bring you along what is next after we get the fence in. It will get stained, then we will lay the pipes for the irrigation. Once the irrigation is in, at least like the main infrastructure of the irrigation, then we will plant the trees, because those little sweet things are ready to get in the ground and get nice and established in their new home. But as always, thanks so much for gardening with Creekside. Y'all have a great day, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye, friends.